What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. In this video I'm going to be giving you guys my review and builds for the units which came with the summer passing update, which includes Summer Selena, Joshua, Mia, Lute, and Rhys. And the timestamps can be found on your seek bar, so you could jump to a specific character if you want to. And I want to thank ShailorMercury as always for the layout. Her link is going to be in the description. I want to apologize for being a bit late to this banner review because I was occupied with the limited hero battles. So if you do enjoy these reviews, then please be sure to leave a like and subscribe because it helps out a lot. And with that said, let us begin. Summer Mia is basically the star of this banner because she's a new type of unit called Harmonized Hero who have got Harmonized skills. So she will have inherent value in Resonant Battles, which is a new game mode centered around these heroes, and she's going to be helping you score more. Ideally, you want to have 2 Harmonized Heroes in Resonant Battles to have the highest ceiling of scoring being open to you, and in that kind of game mode, Summer Mia will always have inherent value. But even as a unit, Summer Mia is definitely pretty powerful. She has got extremely high base speed of 41 with a speed super boon, and also has 35 base attack, which is pretty good. Her bulk is not really greatest at surface level, but she is deceptively bulky and disgustingly bulky actually because of her weapon Summer Strikers. Now this weapon can be compared to Kagero's start, and it is quite similar to that. However, Mia's weapon Summer Strikers gives her -1 special cooldown and an easier condition to get +5 attack and speed during combat, and it also has superior damage reduction compared to Kagero. So this kind of weapon is really disgusting on a unit like Mia who is really fast, and even though she might not have a lot of bulk, 75% damage reduction is quite ridiculous. And we have seen the trailer of that in someone like Kagero, and we have been seeing that for quite a few months. Both of these units really excel in Aether8's defense because it's really hard to just take them out in the first encounter because they will survive because of the damage reduction, and then they'll basically act as a Wings of Mercy anchor for their allies, and Wings of Mercy nukes will jump to the throat of your team. So that's basically where they excel a lot with this kind of effect, and of course this can help them get into the desperation range. Now, does this mean that Summer Mia completely outclasses Kagero? I wouldn't think so, because Kagero is an infantry unit. She has got access to impact skills like Mirror Impact and Sturdy Impact, which Mia cannot run, and those impact skills are really good with an effect like this, which has damage reduction. She also has access to Null Follow-Up, and she can be run on Infantry Pulse teams, where she could have a pre-charged Ignis or Glacies, which can be really devastating with those other skills. So Kagero still has her niche because she's an infantry unit, but Summer Mia is a cavalry unit, so she does have the superior mobility and can work with some mixed teams. So Summer Mia's weapon definitely is why she is so good. That damage reduction is quite ridiculous, and she comes with a new line of skill, Speed, Defense, Snack, which is a decent support skill I guess, but it's not really too required on someone like her. She definitely benefits more from something like a Lull or Desperation. Ultimately, she's gonna be an eyesore to face in Aether8's defense, and if you get her yourself, then she's of course gonna be helping you a lot in Resonant Battles, especially in the later times when everyone has got up to the higher intervals. Now, of course, she's not really worth it just to go for Resonant Battles because that game mode, is really not worth it to go after a specific Harmonized Hero. But instead, if you do like her as a character or even as a unit, then going after her is much better. That's just my opinion. Let's move on to some of her builds. She can definitely run a budget build like this with just Sturdy Blow to get a bit more bulk, and Luna is definitely going to be her special because she does have -1 special cooldown, so Luna becomes a 2-turn cooldown special, which she can trigger in a single round of combat. Moonbow can be run with Desperation because she can always trigger that, and Brazen Sacred Seal is of course a staple on these kinds of builds. If you get a bad Ivy Mia, then she could just be made into a support unit with Smite and using her native speed defense snag with dual tactic skill. Now here come the expensive builds. As I said, Lull skills are really good on her because she can just nullify the speed buffs that you will have or the defense buff you'll have. I feel like Lull speed defense is a bit better than having Lull attack speed because she already has the damage reduction, and if you're going to be using her as a Wings of Mercy anchor in something like Aether8, then I don't think nullifying the attacks of your enemy is really that useful because in any case she's going to be surviving most of the time. Because she is a cavalry dagger unit, she does have access to Disarm Trap, and Disarm Trap is really good in Ether Raid's offense on these kinds of units where you have got Layla or Kronia or Air, but Summer Mia can use it for being a hit and run unit basically in something like Astro Season, because in Light Season you could definitely run Disarm Trap on Air. So in the Light Season with a dancer like Tethys maybe, you could function as a hit and run unit. Not every single team that you're going to be facing in Ether Raid's defense is capable of catching such hit and run units. So you could snipe a dancer maybe, or you could snipe a frontline unit and not really care about the lightning trap or the heavy trap and just get out of there. So she could be used like that. And her damage output is definitely not going to be shabby with that kind of weapon. And the damage reduction is of course going to be helping you survive. She could also be used in Ether Raid's defense. As I said, her strength definitely lies there because of the damage reduction as we've seen with Kagero. So you could simply have her as a rally trap unit where she could jump forward to your frontline unit, use rally, and then get danced by an aerobatics dancer or just any dancer who could be in the range and can dance her. At last, we've got the boring but really strong build. So if you do get a couple of Mias, she can function really well as a Broadleaf Fan, Vantage Sweeper in Ether Raid's offense. Broadleaf Fan is going to be giving insane amounts of damage output, and these kinds of Vantage Sweepers with Broadleaf Fan, I would say that they don't require that many merges, and she does have a pretty good attack at base 35, so she could definitely utilize something like this. And Heavy Blade Miracle is required because they already have the damage output, so you might as well charge up your Miracle. The only problem with this build on Mia is that she doesn't have highest HP, so the levels of the manners and the tactics room have been increasing in Ether Raids. So that could be troublesome because they're still going to be hitting her. Lute is the 4-star focus unit of this banner, so it's much easier to get her, and she's a flying blue mage. Her attack is quite decent at base 35, and her speed is definitely workable at base 34. She's got Flora Guide Plus, which is an inheritable tome, which inflicts -5 speed and resistance debuff on foes within 2 spaces during the combat. This kind of weapon is definitely pretty nice for giving her more speed because she definitely has workable speed, but when it comes to damage output, ultimately it's going to be losing to someone like a Blade Tome, which will just give you superior damage output. Lute can be compared to these two units mainly. It seems like we just get blue flying mage every time a Summer Banner is there. So compared to Camilla, she trades off 2 points of speed for 2 points of attack. I feel like speed is a bit more valuable in a meta where we are facing heavy amounts of speed creep. So just to keep up with that, having more speed is always going to be good. But she does have way more resistance than Camilla. So that could provide her with a bit more versatility with her builds, as you'll see. And she can also run Iceberg and just take magical hits better. And then we have Summer Legarn, who is pretty much the best blue flying mage. Her offensive stat spread is really good. She's got 34 base attack and 37 speed. And she has an exclusive weapon on top of that, which gives her +3 speed. And also has reverse desperation basically. As for her builds, her budget options basically range from having Fury, Swift Sparrow, Attack Speed Bond, and obviously Desperation. And Brazen Seals are always going to be pretty good. And she could run Iceberg or Glimmer. I wouldn't really recommend having something like Moonbow or Luna because she does reduce the resistance of the foe. So those specials are going to be a bit counterintuitive. So having Glimmer or Iceberg is better in my opinion. And of course, you could run her with a Blade Tome in Arena Assault. Even if you have multiple flying blue mages at higher merges, she will still have utility in Arena Assault where you could just pump her up with a lot of buffs and she's going to be hitting really hard. You could also run her with Attack Speed Push 4. That's of course the premium skill for a +10 loot for the people who are going to be +10 merging her. And Res Smoke is going to be pretty nice with her weapon because the weapon gives her in combat debuff and that will stack up with Res Smoke. She could also run a build like this from Summer Camilla with Juicy Wave Plus. She will free up the Slot B skill for running Flyer Formation, and if we get better offensive skills for Slot B for flying units, then she could definitely run that on the Slot B as well. You could also run Res Smoke with a Blade Tome build, basically with having Swift Sparrow 3. So Attack Speed Push 4, Swift Sparrow 3 is definitely the premium option, so you want to go for Slot A. And she can also be used in Ether Raid's defense with something like this. It does say that it takes buffs from 1 Naga and Altina, but it's actually 1 Mirabilis and Thracier, so I apologize for that error. And the biggest strength of having a flying unit in Ether Raid's defense is that they have access to these mobility skills like Aerobatics, Guidance, Ground Orders, which can make it really hard for the opponent to predict the movement. And of course, you could run something like Wings of Mercy to add on top of that. because she's a flying unit, she has got access to impact skills, and she can be extremely annoying with an impact skill like this on Ether Raid's defense. You could also make her into a tank because she does have resistance, which could be used for that specific purpose. So if you do go for a plus 10 Lute, then this is definitely something that she makes use of the merges for with the extra bulk. So just running the Serpent Tome while having Distant Defense 4, Mystic Boost, and IO Shield just gives her the self-sustainability and a lot of bulk. She could definitely run Iceberg actually in place of Noontime, and I've just put Noontime in case you want to use this kind of build for something like Ether Raid's offense, I guess, but Iceberg is definitely a really valid and extremely strong option. Summer Selena is a green cavalry mage, and we have quite a bit of those, but Selena is definitely one of the better ones because of her stat spread of having 37 base attack and 37 speed. So that offensive spread is really top tier on its own as it is, and she also has super boons in those stats, which is just ridiculous. So if you are lucky enough to get that, it's even better. She's got exotic fruit juice, and that's basically the theme of this banner, it seems, with the weapons. And we have seen these kinds of weapons on someone like Kyria, and Kyria makes fantastic use of this. But the thing is that instead of getting the attack debuff, she gets speed debuff during the combat with this weapon, and that's really good because she's already so fast. These kinds of in-combat debuffs are always going to be present for the unit to help them out in the combat, and they're just unavoidable for the foe. So this weapon is definitely pretty strong, and it does also give her plus 3 attacks, so that's really useful. And our main competition is going to be Thunderhead Olwyn. So Thunderhead Olwyn did get a weapon refine where the effect is really similar to exotic fruit juice, but Thunderhead is a blade tome with no special penalty, and that is extremely powerful. When you compare these units side by side, Selena does have more speed than Olwyn, also has a speed super boon, and she has significantly more raw power compared to Olwyn by having 7 extra attack and essentially a 17 might tome. So Selena is not that far off, but I still think that Thunderhead Olwyn is going to be slightly better because of having a blade tome. You could make an argument that panic skills and lull skills are everywhere in the metagame, which can definitely hurt a blade tome. In that sense, Selena just gets unaffected because she does not fully rely on the buffs to get the fire power like Olwyn. But still, at the end of the day, a blade tome is going to be really strong. And Selena, as I said, is not that far off when compared to Olwyn. Olwyn is just slightly better, and Selena with that stat spread and the weapon can definitely hold her ground. So Selena is a very powerful cavalry mage, but ultimately because of being a seasonal unit, she does face competition from a unit who's present in the permanent summoning pool. As for her builds, these are just the budget builds. You could have the snack skill and just have Glimmer and something like Cone Cavalry and so Sparrow's Sacred Seal. You could of course run Desperation because her bulk isn't the greatest, so having Desperation is definitely really nice for a offensive build. You could definitely run a Heavy Blade build. If you get a attack super boon, then it's even better. And her attack is definitely quite good to make use of that. And with these kinds of weapons, by following off Brunnia, you could have access to Rest Smoke, which will stack up with the debuff from her tome, and that does make her pretty powerful. And you can always just stack up the in-combat debuffs by having a lull skill. Lull skills are strong options which cavalry units have got, so Selena can definitely utilize that with her tome. But you're going to be missing out on Desperation, so it's going to be a bit hard to engage in multiple combats. And finally, you could use her in Ether Raid's offense. As I said, in the Olwyn comparison, Blade Tomes can get quite annoying at times, especially in Ether Raid's offense where Panic Manners could be really annoying, and of course lull skills. So there, Selena, instead of running a Blade Tome, can just rock with her weapon and have Rest Smoke and Brazen Attack resistance. And because she's got an attack super boon as well, if you get that, then she can definitely hit pretty hard even without a blade tome, and she is not completely stopped by panic and lull skills. Joshua is a red infantry archer. He has got pretty good stat spread actually for an archer, having 36 base attack and high 39 speed. His bulk is also kind of workable with having 28 defense and 24 resistance while having the resistance super boon, which is usually not going to be as good as the speed super boon. Similar to Lute, he has got an inheritable weapon which has got -5 speed and defense debuff on foes within 2 combats, and this kind of faces competition from Spendthrift Bow. which essentially gives you +7 attack, +7 defense, and +7 resistance. It doesn't really give you the speed, but still, the in-combat utilization of that weapon is really good. The drawback is that it does reset your special, so that's something to consider. And of course, if you're gonna be using him just in the player phase, or you're gonna be using a bow unit just in the player phase, then they also have the option of Bouquet Bow Plus from Bridal Louise, who just gives you +4 attack and speed during the combat. So it's pretty much gonna be the same thing compared to the Coral Bow Plus. So it definitely faces competition as an inheritable weapon. As is with all of these seasonal units, they are going to be facing competition from permanent units in the summoning pool, and his competition is going to be Igreen. Both of them have pretty similar stat spread, but Igreen is always going to be better because of having a legendary weapon in Guardian Bow, which is just so good. And it does give her -1 special cooldown, and if she's just 1 point faster than the foe, then she gets -5 attack speed and defense debuff on them. And that's just really powerful. So it's kind of like Joshua's weapon, but having higher might and also -1 special cooldown. So Joshua is always going to be under the shadow of Igreen. Joshua does seem to have a better stat spread in Vacuum compared to Igreen, but Guardian Bow is definitely going to be there on Igreen always. So unfortunately, that's the world which Joshua has to live in. So even though he faces tremendous amounts of competition from Igreen, he is still pretty decent in his own right because of that stat spread. And if you like him a lot, then he can definitely be a pretty strong unit. His budget options include Fury, Swiss Sparrow, Desperation, and Fury is going to be a pretty decent budget skill for him, of course, and that could be used with a special like Bonfire because he's able to have more than 30 defense, and you could of course buff up the defense to get the more damage output. And you could just use him as a support unit as well with the second build, where if you get a bad IV, you could just use him with the Link skill because he does come with that. He also comes with Fortify Defense 4, so just have Smite and Rest Tactic, and that could be used. And you could also use him with Fury Desperation, the good old stuff of course. Now he can also be made into a Rooker Siege Slayer. Against any kind of green unit or a flying unit, he's going to be extremely powerful because he can quad attack with his Brave Bow. And he does have pretty good offensive stat spread, so you just want to run a build like this so that you can stop the special charges of the Rooker with the guard. And Breath of Life is just going to be healing the HP of your dancers, which are going to be idly standing around Joshua. You could also run a lull skill. With these kinds of weapons, lull skills are no-brainer. It is going to be giving him -8 speed and defense debuff on the foe, and this can of course be combined with a visible debuff like Defense Smoke. And you could also run something what Igreen already runs, basically. But if you like Joshua and if you do get him, then this build is definitely possible with an AoE spam build with Slaying Bow, Special Spiral, and Life and Death 4. And because he's got a speed super boon, you could always use him as a quad archer because he can definitely do that kind of role. By speed stacking with attack speed push 4 and so Sparrow Sacred Seal, he can get to really high speeds to just be a very reliable quad archer. And you could also use him with Fire Sweep Bow. He does have pretty high speed, so usually that kind of thing is really good with Fire Sweep Bow users. And you could also use Flashing Blade 4 because of his high speed again to utilize something like Luna with Slaying Bow, which becomes a 2-turn cooldown special, and he can get true damage from that. He could also be used in Aether Raid's defense, where you could run him with Ignis and an impact skill like Sturdy Impact, and this does put him at 44 defense, which can give you quite a bit of Ignis damage on an Infantry Pulse team, and his HP is decent enough to the point where he could pulse someone like Thracier down below him, and he can definitely get pulsed by 2 units, maybe a frontline unit like Selef or Brave Ike, and a high HP dancer like Sylvia or Ninian to have Ignis pre-charged. You could also run him as a tank with the Spendthrift Bow in Aether Raid's offense. Null Follow-Up is definitely a really good skill on him because of his high speed, and also the fact that you're going to be facing a lot of Bramimons in the light season when you're going to be using him, and Pulse Smoke is pretty fantastic against Infantry Pulse teams. You could again use him in Aether Raid's offense as a Vantage unit with Spendthrift Bow. This is just going to be giving him more damage output compared to Coral Bow. And because he's red color, he does have a pretty good matchup against Thracier, and he's also really fast, so even if like Killing Intent is active, Thracier is not going to be able to double someone like Joshua, who is going to be pretty fast. I'm not really going to be making a dedicated video for Rhys, so I thought I would just cover him in the banner review itself. So Rhys is an infantry healer, and we have quite a lot of those. He's a Tempest Trial Reward, which means that you're going to be requiring 2,700 grails to +10 merge him, and that's the thing. He requires so many grails to heavily invest into him compared to the other infantry healers who are easily available. His staff is basically following the theme of the Summer Banner. It gives a -5 attack and speed debuff on foes within 2 spaces during the combat, and this is a pretty decent support staff, but the problem I have with this is that I wish it gave like resistance -5 debuff, because healers as it is don't have the best offensive options. They don't have specials, so getting a bit more damage output would be really nice, especially they could run Dazzling Staff to just apply safe damage pressure. But nonetheless, attack debuff can help you bulk wise. His stat spread is really underwhelming, which is really unfortunate, and he also has really low speed. So with his weapon, he does the speed debuff on the foe, but he doesn't have the raw speed to actually make full use of this and double the foes himself. He also cannot have access to IVs because of being a Tempest trial unit, so that is definitely pretty sad. And his main competition is basically going to be Emryn. So we did get free Emryn from Book 4 Midpoint Quest, and she's going to be added into the permanent summoning pool as a 3-star 4-star unit next month. Emryn is quite similar to Rhys, where she has got similar HP, similar attack, and also similar defense. She does not have as much resistance as Rhys, but she trades that for speed. And that is something I value way more, because even though Rhys is going to be having higher resistance, he's gonna get doubled all the time by the threats. Even though he has got a staff which has the -5 speed debuff, that is not enough to stop a lot of the offensive units from doubling him. But someone like Emryn, if you do invest into her, she does have access to IVs, so you could easily double the foes yourself with his staff, his palm staff. So that is basically the comparison. Emryn just gives a brutal competition, and she got released the same month as Rhys got released as a free unit. So that is just so unfortunate, and she ironically makes better use of his staff than he does himself. At +10 merge, you could compare the stat spread again. Rhys is going to be having higher resistance, of course, but having higher speed is just so much better in general, and that does translate into your bulk because you're going to be getting double less. And Emryn does have IVs again, so she could have way more speed than Rhys at +10, having 10 extra speed, which is quite significant, and she can have same attack as Rhys basically with a plus attack IV. So such is the life of Rhys. Even though he didn't face competition from Emryn, having that steep cost of 2,700 grails is really too much for a healer, and an infantry healer of all things, which are just so common in the normal summoning pool. If he was a flying healer or a cavalry healer, then yeah, that could have made it a bit better for him, but as far as infantry healers go, Emryn is always going to be just T-posing on him to assert the dominance. Still, if you do like him a lot and you're really happy that he's in the game, I've got some builds for you. So these are the budget builds. You could run Guard as a budget skill to basically stop the special charges of the enemies, because again, he's going to get doubled a lot, especially when he's going to be unmerged. So that's going to help you. And you could run something like Steady Stance 3 and Live to Serve as a defensive build. And this kind of build can be used on auto battling, basically when you're going to be training up your units, or in Tempest Trial, stuff like that. And he could also be used in Arena Assault as just a utility with double Savage Blow and having speed defense bond with Wings of Mercy. Wings of Mercy doesn't have the greatest synergy with Physic Plus, but that is what you get on budget. Now, we're moving on to +10 Rhys. For the Rhys fans who are going to be so dedicated to +10 merge him, you can of course speed stack him with higher investment by having attack speed push 4, LUT speed resistance, and even joint drive speed. So these are just the ways of stacking his speed, and he can get really fast with this, even though he does not have the greatest speed stat. But again, so this is definitely something to consider if you want to use him with his staff. And you could also use him as a support unit with this kind of weapon, just having Fortress Defense Res, making use of his high resistance to have a sabotage attack. And if sabotage skills become a Sacred Seal, then you could definitely run that in Sacred Seal slot as well. If you're a big Rhys fan, and if you want to go all the way out to the max investment, then you could run some really premium skills for a build like this with Close Foil, lull attack speed, and attack speed bond. So he's not going to be running Dazzling Staff or Wrathful Staff in slot B. Instead, he's going to be having a lull skill, which does help him being more bulky, which is of course really good with Close Foil, and also makes him pretty fast. Rhys has got the highest HP out of any kind of infantry healer, so he can always be used in an infantry pulse team and Ether Raid's defense. And he can definitely be a restore trap basically with restore plus, and he can get to such a high amount of HP that he can pulse down pretty much majority of the nukes, and he can also avoid getting isolated by someone like Delfino who wants to avoid the restore trap. I do like to suggest different builds for different game modes, so again you could run him like this for Rooker Siege with Melancholy Plus or Witchy Wand Plus, and that's basically to have the guard effect on the Rooker and resetting their special, and that is just really good. And just have Live to Serve and double drive attack for supporting the allies. So that is going to be it for the review of these units. I would say that this banner is not really must to pull on. As you saw with the comparisons, they definitely face competition from the normal summoning pool units, but they do have pretty cool art, and if you do like these units then you could definitely go for them. And again, Summer Mia does have that inherent value in resonant battles, but as I explained in my resonant guide and also in this video, like, don't go out of your way just to get her for that game mode because it's not going to be worth it. So the tradition continues in FEH where summer banners just get leaked beforehand, and summer units are definitely pretty fun with their nice art and not really too game breaking. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because expecting YouTube sub boxes to work is like expecting Mia to get one shot in her player phase with that damage reduction. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.